we'll just jump in. Just to give you an idea of kind of what we've done. I don't know how much you've been keeping tabs with the progress of this building since the fire and all that, but basically everything in here is new, essentially. A lot of the equipment that we're using is similar to what you've used in the past, but maybe not exactly the same thing. Or maybe by a different manufacturer, or maybe it's an updated version that's different than the older one that you had, et cetera, et cetera. The principles that you've used, the way you've operated in the past, is not really going to change all that much. You still have, a front of house setup. You're still, using ProPresenter to do video. You're still, have a dedicated light control system. You have a separate room for video production. There's, a lot of those things are kind of roughly similar to what you've been doing, but every piece of equipment in here that you can see is new. So I would just encourage you to be a student and kind of put on your learning cap for the first several months that you're in here. Don't walk in with an idea of, this is new and intimidating and I'm just gonna shrink back and not go out of my shell and try anything new, but approach it with the idea of it's an opportunity for you to kind of like take your skills to another level. So just, I leave that with you as kind of just a challenge of kind of how to approach this. A lot of times we look at new equipment and we just think like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. It's not like the old one. Look at it as an opportunity. So first of all, we are, the console, we're talking about the audio console tonight. So the audio console that you have at front of house is an Allen & Heath SQ7. You have then an Allen & Heath SQ5, which is the baby brother of that, in production. They are both going to be receiving the same 48-ish channels from the stage to each of those consoles with separate control. So there is complete autonomy between those two systems. Well, I say complete autonomy. The sources are going to be shared between. But once you get that source into your mixer, whether you're mixing for the stream or whether you're mixing in the sanctuary, you have complete control. What the other guy is doing is not going to affect you. Okay? So that's somewhat similar to what you had in the past. You had autonomy before. The difference here that makes it, I think, a much superior setup is that these two consoles use the same software. They run on the same basic menus, and if you can run the stream mix, you absolutely can step in and mix Sunday morning or vice versa. The only difference is, and we'll show you when we get back there, the only difference is the size of the mixing surface that you have and the number of faders that you have. Everything internally is the same. So I would also say what that means as well is if you want to go into YouTube world, we're going to cover a lot of stuff tonight, but we're not going to get in depth like you might like to on certain things. If you want to get into YouTube world and you run across, say for example, Allen & Heath has their SQ series tutorials. Well, there's 3 different SQ consoles, and you might see a tutorial they're showing everything on an SQ5. Don't blow that off. That exactly will translate to the SQ7. Any tutorial that you see that is an SQ-whatever console is going to be the same between the models. All right, so first thing to think about here is that you're going from a 32 channel console to a 48 channel console. All right, you can mix and control 48 channels at a time with this mixer. Now, the mixer actually has the ability to bring in much more audio than that. You can bring in audio on a USB connection to a laptop, for example. You could bring in 32 additional channels of audio from a laptop. You could bring in, depending on, they have card slots in the back, you could invest in a card for a different type of audio format and bring in more channels from other types of equipment. You can only mix 48 at a time, okay? So that's the thing to keep in mind. What we did when we installed the system is we basically gave you all 48 of your inputs from the stage, that in theory, if you wanted to plug in 48 things on the stage, you could. Now, in real world scenario, that's probably never going to happen. in part because we've got back there a wireless rack with 10 wireless mics in it. All right? So those 10 wireless mics have to go somewhere, right? So first thing that we notice is that we have 48 channels available from the stage, but we may not be able to use them all plus everything else that we've got hooked up. All right? So you've got to think in terms of the big picture. What's the grand total of things that you've got to get into that mixer? Is it this many microphones, this many instruments? Here's a track playback from a Walkman that somebody brought, or here's a track we're going to play from ProPresenter. You got to consider all of those things and how you're going to get them into the console. All right. So just because you see in our 4 boxes here, I'll show you in a second, you see mic 1 all the way up to mic 48. Just because you see it on here does not yet mean that it is in the console and you can use it. You have to set it up and bring it into the console and then use it. I'm going to show you how to do that tonight. All right.